Welcome to Beer Untapped with Perry Miller, the podcast. I'm joined by Seth.
Hey, welcome, guys. Thanks for finding us on the internet.
Now, these shows originally aired on Brookings Radio, but now they're all here for your enjoyment. I hope you like it.
There you go. Sit back, enjoy the show, relax. Let us know if you want to see anything on future shows. As we said, this comes out live in the Brookings area, but enjoy this archive episode.
Beer Untapped with Perry Miller.
Welcome to Beer Untapped with Perry Miller. With possible legislative changes in the works in Pierre that could help South Dakota brewers, it's important to recognize a national trend. Things seem to be moving more and more to a local model when it comes to craft beer. Several of the biggest craft brewers are struggling, but the total number of breweries in the country continues to grow. And as Seth Cook at Wooden Lakes Brewing in Brookings points out, the big guys in the craft beer world still make a lot of beer.
4,680 breweries accounted for. 27 of them, 27 breweries, make 54% of the beer. Those 27 represent a half a percentage of the total number of breweries. So a half a percentage is making 54% of the beer. That leaves the rest of us brewers, the family of 4,000 plus, to make the remaining.
However, those numbers also point out that much of the craft beer sold in the country is being pumped out a few barrels at a time at the now 5,000 plus breweries in America, including all of them in South Dakota.
South Dakota has less than 20 brewers in our entire state. We're probably less than the pencil lead used to make the pie on your chart. Like this is, and I'm talking like the .05 pencil lead, the thin stuff. When we talk about South Dakota brewing, there's two things that I think people should recognize, and I think the numbers lend themselves to it. One is that South Dakota brewers are small. We are very, very small players in an industry. I think that's easy to recognize. Number two is that South Dakota brewers are what I would consider hyper-localized brewers. There's a slim few of us that you could find our products all over the state. Our brewing companies, our little businesses, are based literally for the blocks around us, the surrounding neighborhood.
And Seth says that can be a very good thing.
The breweries that are here are more in tune with the neighborhoods and the school systems, in some cases the politics, the sports teams. Like, this is where we're at. This is who we are. Where the big brewers, and there's nothing wrong with successful brewers like Summit and Surly, and nothing wrong with that. But they don't have the hyper locality of the South Dakota community. So when it comes to South Dakota beer, and we say drink local beer, we really mean that. I mean, these are people that you see on the street. These are the people, the guys and gals that are living to make this beer.
The proposed changes to South Dakota law could help these small brewers thrive. More on that when Beer Untapped continues in a moment. Welcome back to Beer Untapped with Perry Miller. Craft beer nationally seems to be moving more and more towards the local model. Small, even tiny brew pubs serving their local community and not distributing their beer over several states or even much in their home state. Seth Cook of Wooden Lakes Brewing in Brookings says some of the laws governing alcoholic beverages in South Dakota need to be brought into the 21st century and that modern model.
As these local brewers try to continue to build their craft, build their audience, and affect their communities, that's where a lot of the legislation, a lot of the discussion that has happened in Pierre has come from. And that's why it's been pressed. The reality is that we don't have mega-breweries in South Dakota, and some of the laws and some of the regulations and some of the things that were written were designed to inhibit mega-breweries, to protect distributors, to protect consumers, and honestly, the atmosphere, the attitude, and really the methodology of a craft local brewer of the block is much, much different.
He believes it's time to revisit these laws.
When we talk about some of this legislation, we talk about the things that could be done to maybe loosen the handcuffs on what breweries in South Dakota are. I'd like people just to realize that we're trying to fit the rules to the reality of what brewers are instead of trying to use arcane rules for the fear of what brewers could become. And those laws were written with fear in mind of what a brewery was, well, nearly 100 years ago. So definitions have changed.
He says it's time to have this conversation.
The palette that we have available to us is fantastic. It is fantastic. And that is, a lot of the opportunity, let's be honest, a lot of the opportunity that we're afforded right now has been because of trailblazers like Boston Beer Company, Odell's. I appreciate for what they've done. But they had these same conversations in Massachusetts, in Colorado, in the Pacific Northwest, in the Midwest. We're not the first state to have this conversation. Maybe, unfortunately, we're one of the last, but we're not the first state to have this conversation. And I think it's time, and I'm really excited for it.
And we'll be following that conversation closely. Finally, today, upcoming events at Wooden Legs include a Blizzard hockey bus this Saturday night.
You can get a ticket from us, and the space is limited, so I would suggest to grab one beforehand. We'll have the crew up front would be able to get you a ticket beforehand. There will be some tickets today available. What will happen is that you bring that ticket in on the 27th, and it will give you a brat here at the pub. It'll get you one of our craft beers here at the pub. It'll get you a ride to the game. It'll get you a ticket into the game. It'll get you a beer at the game. And it'll get you a ride back downtown after the game. So this is the 27th. For $20 a head, you get 2 beers, a brat, and a ticket to the game, and a ride back and forth. It is one of our most beloved events of the winter.
That's it for this week's show. Until next time, drink local and drink responsibly.
Thank you for listening to this archived edition of Beer Untapped with Perry Miller. Feel free to listen to other episodes. And if there's anything you'd like us to talk about on a future show, please let us know. Thanks again.